What makes a woman stare at the ceiling at 2 a.m., heart pounding, thoughts racing, scrolling through old messages she swore she deleted? It's not guilt, it's not loneliness. It's the realization that she didn't just lose a man, she lost a king. Not because he yelled, not because he begged. Nope. It's because he disappeared. And in his silence, she felt the weight of everything she threw away. This kind of man doesn't explode. He doesn't chase. He doesn't spiral. He simply steps back, detached, calm, in full control of himself. No desperate texts, no late-night calls, no weakness. Just a haunting presence that lingers even when he's not there. That's the man she replays in her head. That's the man she compares everyone else to. Why? Because when you become unshakable, you become unforgettable. This isn't about games. It's not about revenge. It's about rebirth. You were shattered. She walked. Maybe she didn't even flinch. And in that moment, you had two options: break down or break through. Weak men collapse. Stoic men evolve. They take that pain and turn it into power, into clarity, into focus. They become the kind of man who walks into any room and doesn't need to prove a damn thing, because his presence already says it all. This channel, this message, this moment, it's your wake-up call. You don't need her validation. You don't need her closure. What you need is discipline, emotional control, ruthless focus. That's what she didn't expect. And that's what turns regret into obsession. The man who controls his emotions, he controls everything, including how long she thinks about him after he's gone. You're not here to wallow, you're here to ascend. If you want to know how to make her feel the loss without saying a word, if you want to transform heartbreak into high-level masculine energy, this is your blueprint. If you're done being ruled by your feelings, if you're ready to become the version of yourself she'll never replace, hit that like button. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. I rise from silence. Number 1. The death of validation. She didn't leave because you weren't enough. She left because she felt like she owned you. And the brutal truth is this: people don't value what they control. Every time she pulled away and you reached harder, every time she gave you less and you compensated by giving more, you handed her the throne, you made her the sun in your sky. And when a woman becomes your oxygen, she forgets how to breathe around you. See, validation is the modern man's poison. It looks like love. It feels like devotion. But underneath, it's fear. Fear of losing her. Fear of being alone. Fear that you won't be seen unless she says you're worth something. That's not strength. That's emotional slavery. And here's the paradox. The more you try to earn her approval, the less she gives it. Why? Because in her subconscious mind, neediness equals weakness. And weakness doesn't spark desire. It kills it. A woman doesn't miss the man who gave her everything. She misses the man who gave her standards, who challenged her, who didn't fold the moment she played games. When you become indifferent to her approval, when you stop explaining yourself, stop over-communicating, stop checking in, hoping she still cares, that's when she starts to wonder. That's when she starts to feel your absence. Because silence isn't emptiness. It's a mirror. It forces her to confront the value you brought when she didn't appreciate it. The death of validation is not about being cold. It's about being rooted. It's about not letting your worth rise and fall based on someone else's attention span. A stoic man knows this. You don't chase what's not chasing you. You don't convince anyone to stay. You become the standard. And if they can't match it, you let them go, without noise, without drama, without a second thought. When you stop seeking her validation, you stop bleeding power, you stop negotiating your identity, and you start reclaiming the quiet strength that makes a woman rethink everything she thought she knew about you. This is the turning point. The old you, the one who begged to be seen, the one who gave too much for too little, that version dies here. Because kings don't ask for crowns, they become them. Number 2. Emotional control is her kryptonite. You think yelling gets her attention? You think showing her how much she hurt you makes her care? Nope. That just confirms what she already suspects, that she's got power over you. But when you go quiet, when you stop reacting, when you become emotionally unreadable, that's when she gets uneasy. Because a man in control of his emotions is a man no one can play. Understand this. Emotional discipline is dominance, not over her, over yourself. And that's what she never expected. She expected you to lash out, to beg, to spiral. She was prepared for your chaos, not your calm. She had a script, and you broke it. And now, she doesn't know what page she's on. That's where the shift begins. The moment she can't predict you, she starts to feel your absence in a different way. Not just as space, but as power. In today's world, emotional chaos is the default. People overshare, overreact and collapse the second they're triggered. But when you remain composed, when you feel everything and say nothing, you create mystery. Mystery creates tension, and tension is the fuel of attraction. This isn't about suppressing your feelings, it's about owning them so fully that they no longer control you. That's what stoicism teaches. Pain is real, but suffering is optional. You're allowed to hurt, you're just not allowed to crumble. When she sees that you're unshaken, that her silence didn't break you, that your world keeps moving without her, she starts to feel the weight of what she lost. Because now she's not sure if she can still get to you. And uncertainty is addictive. That's the secret. Women don't regret losing emotional wrecks. They regret losing men who were too emotionally stable to break in the first place. You stop being her safety net. You stop being her ego boost, and you start being her unanswered question. Let her wonder if you ever cared. Let her question why you're not chasing. That silence, that stillness, that self-possession. That's her kryptonite, because deep down, every woman wants a man who's harder to shake than he is to find. Number 3, disappear to dominate. The most powerful move isn't saying something clever, it's saying nothing at all. Disappear completely. No warning, no post, no pity party, just gone. Not because you're playing games, but because you're done playing roles that cost you your peace. When a woman knows where you are, what you're thinking, how you're feeling, she's still in control. But when you vanish from her world without explanation, it flips a switch she didn't know she had. See, men think closure is noble, but closure is often just a final plea to be remembered. Disappearing isn't cowardice, it's strategy. It's what a man does when he finally realizes that presence is a privilege, not a birthright. You're not trying to hurt her, you're just no longer available to someone who didn't value you when it mattered. That's not revenge, it's respect for yourself. When she doesn't see you online, when her stories go unwatched, when she scrolls and you're not lurking, when mutual friends can't give her updates, that's when the panic creeps in, not because she misses your love, but because she lost your attention. You took away the fuel that kept her ego warm, and without that supply, doubt starts to grow in her mind like a virus. Is he over me? Did he find someone better? Was I ever that important? You don't answer those questions. You let silence answer them for you. Disappearance is not absence. It's a new form of presence, one she can't control, one that lingers in the back of her mind when everything else goes quiet. This is where you shift from being a memory to becoming a mystery. Because when a man removes his energy, his attention, his reaction, he doesn't fade, he amplifies. You're not ghosting, you're growing, and growth requires isolation. It requires you to cut ties with what weakened you so you can build what strengthens you. A king doesn't announce his retreat. He vanishes into the mountain, sharpens his blade, rebuilds his fortress, and when he returns, he's 10 times harder to reach. That's the move. Disappear, not to make her chase, but to make yourself untouchable. Number 4. You never chase what's beneath you. The moment you chase her after she's disrespected you, you tell her exactly where you stand, beneath her. You say, without words, "My standards don't matter. My boundaries are flexible. I'll accept breadcrumbs as long as they come from you." And once you do that, it's over. Not just the relationship, your power, your self-respect, your masculine frame collapses the second you make someone your emotional superior. A high-value man doesn't chase, not because he's arrogant, but because he's selective. He knows that not everything that looks good is good for him. He doesn't reward bad behavior. He doesn't explain his worth. He simply walks. And that walk, without words, without begging, says more than any speech ever could, because when you hold the line, you train people how to treat you. When you break it, you teach them how to use you. Women test men constantly, sometimes consciously, sometimes subconsciously. They want to see what you'll tolerate, if they can chip away at your confidence, if they can get you emotional, reactive, needy. And the second you fold, the second you start defending yourself, trying to fix things, trying to prove your value, you've already lost. Not just her respect, but your own. You have to be willing to lose her to keep yourself. That's the code. If her behavior crosses the line, you don't explain why it's wrong. You remove access. You don't lower your standards to keep her. You raise your standards to attract better. When you act like a prize, people either rise up to meet you or get left behind. Either way, you win. And here's the twist. When she sees that you're willing to walk, when she feels your absence and not your anger, she starts to second-guess everything. Because most men beg, most men plead. But you stayed silent. You stayed grounded. And that makes her wonder if maybe she was the one who fumbled. Not because you told her, but because your actions made it undeniable. Number 5, the art of the unanswered message. Every time she texts you something half-hearted, a meme, a hope you're doing okay, a breadcrumb of attention, and you jump to reply. You lose ground. You tell her she still has access to you whenever she wants it. But when you leave that message on read, or better yet, don't open it at all, you flip the dynamic. You show restraint. You show control. You show that her little test didn't move you an inch. The unanswered message is more than silence. It's psychological warfare, because in that space between sent and seen, she starts spinning. Why isn't he answering? Is he with someone? Did he forget me? Did I go too far? That confusion is the beginning of accountability. You're not ghosting her out of bitterness. You're holding a mirror up to her choices and refusing to be pulled back into a dynamic where your emotions were used like a toy. See, men are trained to respond instantly, to always keep it cool, be polite, be available. But kings aren't available on demand. Kings don't chase pings on a screen. They don't reward low-effort behavior, because attention is currency, and the minute you start handing it out to someone who disrespected you, you devalue yourself. When she messages you after the damage is done, she's not reaching for love. She's reaching to see if she still has you. Don't give her that closure. Let her feel the consequences. Let her live with the silence. Let her question if she ever really had you at all. The longer you say nothing, the louder the message becomes. This is the discipline most men never learn, to resist the urge to respond, to not let curiosity or pride pull them back into dead conversations. The art of the unanswered message is the art of emotional control in real time. You're not just holding back a reply, you're holding the line. And that boundary, that refusal to be reactivated, that's what starts to shift the power dynamic in your favor, for good. Number 6. Master of your world. The fastest way to make her regret losing you is not by proving your worth to her. It's by building a life so powerful that she no longer fits in it. Not through petty flexing, not through fake progress, but by becoming the kind of man who is fully in command of his time, his purpose, and his energy. When she sees that you're not just surviving without her, but thriving, that's when the reality hits. She didn't just lose love, she lost a man on the rise. You want her attention? Get serious about your mission. Wake up earlier, hit the gym harder, learn skills that pay. Build your body, your mindset, your empire, brick by brick, not for revenge, for evolution. Because a woman doesn't miss a man who's stuck in the same patterns. She misses the man who upgraded so much, he makes her feel like a chapter she's already outgrown. This isn't about moving on fast or pretending you don't care. This is about rerouting every ounce of that pain into fuel. Not by looking over your shoulder to see if she's watching, but by being so locked in on your goals that even if she was watching, it wouldn't change your focus. That's real power. When your ambition drowns out your desire to be understood, your need to be loved, your obsession with the past. The more you level up, the more the memory of who you used to be fades. And the more it fades, the harder it becomes for her to reach you, even emotionally. Because you're no longer that same man. You're sharper now, colder but wiser, detached but disciplined. And that transformation, that's what makes her start to spiral. Because in her mind, you were supposed to be the one stuck, not her. Reclaiming your world means taking full responsibility. No more blame, no more waiting for an apology. You cut the emotional cord and build in silence. And by the time she realizes what she lost, she'll be looking up at a man she no longer knows how to talk to because he's too far ahead for her to reach. Number 7. Her mirror is now empty. She used to look in your eyes and see a reflection of her power. Your attention made her feel desired. Your reactions made her feel important. Your need for her made her feel wanted, even when she didn't reciprocate. But now she stares into silence. And that mirror, once polished by your devotion, is empty. No reflection, no validation, nothing to feed her ego. And that void? It eats at her more than she'll ever admit. You don't realize how much your presence held her up until it's gone. You were her emotional mirror, constantly reflecting her worth, her beauty, her influence. But when you stop feeding that, when you stop responding, stop reacting, stop orbiting her world, she has to face herself, raw and unfiltered. And for a lot of people, especially those who thrive on external validation, that's terrifying. That's the quiet revenge, not anger, not pettiness. Absence. You've pulled the plug on the emotional power grid she was drawing from, and now she's stuck trying to generate her own light and realizing she can't shine as bright without your energy reflecting back. She may post more, dress up more, try to bait you with indirect attention. But if you stay silent, if you stay unbothered, that mirror just stays dark. This is where most men fail. They check back in, they fall for the trap, they break the silence to see if she still cares. Don't. She doesn't miss you yet. She misses what your attention did for her. There's a difference. And the longer you stay distant, the more that difference becomes obvious to her and to you. When you remove yourself as her mirror, she's left to face the one thing she's been avoiding all along, her own reflection. Without you reflecting back her importance, her confidence cracks. Her certainty fades, and she starts to feel exactly what you felt, the cold of indifference. The difference is, you're using it to build. She's using it to search for something that might not come back. Number 8. The return of the king. There comes a point in every man's journey where silence turns into strength and absence transforms into legend. That's when you stop being a memory and start becoming a myth. You're not bitter. You're not waiting. You're not watching from the shadows hoping she notices. You're building, and when you return, if you return, it's not as the broken man who once begged to be loved. It's as the king she never imagined she'd lose. The return isn't about showing her what she missed. It's about showing yourself who you really are, because the real glow-up isn't visual. It's energetic. It's in how you move, how you speak, how your presence shifts the energy in a room without saying a word. You're no longer the man who needed her to complete him. You've become the man who doesn't need anything, because he built it all within. And here's the irony. When she sees you again, sharper, more grounded, more in control, she won't recognize you. That's not the man she left. That's not the man who waited by the phone. That's not the man who poured out his heart for someone who stopped listening. This version of you doesn't chase, doesn't explain, doesn't shrink to fit the past. He commands respect just by existing. This is the return of the king. Not a man who's trying to reopen old doors, but a man who's too busy building palaces to even knock. You've mastered the art of walking away and meaning it. And that power, that's what haunts her now. Because deep down she knows, if she reached out today, you might not answer, not out of malice, but because the throne you were once knocked off of, you rebuilt it, and you sat back down without asking permission. You were once breakable, now you're unshakable, and that version of you, that's the one she thought would never exist without her. 9. You were the storm she couldn't predict. She thought she had you figured out, thought she could walk away and you'd chase, thought you'd wait in the wings, orbiting her world, forever emotionally available. But storms don't follow forecasts, and you weren't the nice, safe option she assumed you'd always be. You were the quiet force gathering strength, the man who disappeared not to sulk, but to sharpen. And now, you're the storm she never saw coming. She expected a reaction, tears, rage, one last plea. Instead, you gave her nothing, just stillness, calm, distance. That calm wasn't weakness, it was warning. The calm before the rebuild, the silence before the shift. And by the time she noticed the difference, it was too late. Because while she was playing emotional games, you were upgrading your reality. No loud moves, no messy rebounds, just clean detachment and relentless self-elevation. That's what rattles her now. Not that you're gone, but that you're better, that she can't predict you, that the man who once opened his heart with no filter is now unreadable, untouchable. She can't manipulate what she can't understand, and she can't affect what doesn't need her. You want to know what leaves a permanent mark, not chaos, control, not trying to make her jealous, making her irrelevant. You became the unknown, the version of you she thought was impossible, and that shift, that unpredictability, is what forces her to confront the biggest fear in her subconscious, that she lost something rare, not because you told her, because you showed her through your complete absence and unstoppable growth. She thought you were soft, thought you'd crumble, thought she could walk away and come back whenever. But storms don't rewind, they don't wait, and they never return to the place that couldn't handle their power the first time. You were the storm she couldn't predict, and the calm she'll never forget. 10. Detachment is divine masculine. The final level isn't rage, it's not revenge, it's detachment. Not coldness, but clarity, not hatred, but indifference, the kind that can't be faked, the kind that comes when you've fully processed the pain, accepted what happened, and realized you don't need anything from her anymore. Not love, not closure, not understanding. That's the apex of masculine energy. when your peace is non-negotiable and your focus is unbreakable. Most men never reach this level because they're addicted to emotional loops. They keep the door cracked just in case. They still check her page, still wait for a sign. But detachment ends all of that. It's not giving up, it's leveling up. It's the moment you stop being reactive and start being sovereign. The moment your life expands beyond her reach. She becomes a distant memory, not because you erased her, but because you outgrew her. And this is what she never expected. Not that you'd hate her, that you'd forget her, that her name would no longer carry weight in your world, that the man who once clung to her energy is now too consumed with purpose to even look back. That's the regret she didn't plan for, not that you're gone, but that she no longer affects you at all. Divine masculine energy isn't loud. It doesn't chase. It doesn't explain. It moves with purpose, with silence, with total emotional control. You've become the man who's too grounded to be shaken, too focused to be distracted, too complete to be manipulated. And that kind of man, he doesn't ask to be remembered. He forces it by becoming unforgettable. You're not here to reclaim her. You're here to reclaim you. And now that you have, she'll feel it every day. Not through your words, but through your absence. Not because you want her back, but because you no longer want what you once tolerated. That's the final form. That's the quiet, relentless power she'll never stop thinking about, even long after you've stopped thinking about her. So now you know. It wasn't the gifts, it wasn't the texts, it wasn't the nights you stayed up trying to fix what was already broken. It was you, your presence, your peace, your power that she underestimated. And when you finally stopped giving it away for free, that's when she started to feel the loss. Not because you made noise, but because you made moves. You didn't chase. You didn't explain. You didn't collapse under the weight of heartbreak. You turned it into fuel. You chose silence over begging, standards over desperation, growth over grief. And that transformation, that stoic, unshakable masculine energy, is the part that haunts her. Because she thought she had time. She thought you'd stay stuck. But kings don't stay stuck. They evolve. Now you walk different. Think different. Move like a man who knows his worth and doesn't negotiate it. And whether she watches from a distance or pretends not to care, one thing's certain. She'll never forget the day you stopped chasing and started building. That's the moment you became a man she can't reach anymore. If you're done letting emotions dictate your value, if you're ready to lead your life with strength and silence, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below, "My silence holds power." Because this is how kings are born. Stoic, silent, unforgettable.